Today on the Live Your Brand podcast, we speak with Joey Jenkins. As a speaker, author, and CEO, Joey has spent his life and career leading projects he believes can make an impact in the world. From founding the nonprofit organization Encompass, that's transforming the lives of children in Haiti, to serving as the CEO of Vooks, a streaming library of animated children's books designed to inspire the love of reading for every child around the world. And as a close personal friend and longtime business partner, he is one of the most inspiring and purpose-driven people I know.
We need to become the hero generation. A generation that doesn't think sharing a Facebook post or a tweet is enough anymore. A generation that becomes more, because the world needs you now more than ever.
A lot of people say they want to change the world, but few dedicate themselves to it like Joey has, because his mission is clear and it drives what he does every day.
Yeah, I would say for me, we've talked about this before, but nothing frustrates me more than wasted human potential, because I feel like my mission is to challenge and inspire people to become the men and women they were created to be. And just seeing people use their God-given unique gifts, their unique story, their passions and talents, when you combine all that together, they can impact people in a way that neither of us can. And so for me, I think the world's obviously not short on problems and issues. Like, the world needs people to step up and become who they're capable of becoming. And so for me, that's probably the most life-giving, exciting thing in the world, is to play a part of that journey of helping somebody to believe in themselves in a way they never believed in themselves before, to take risks, to take action, to step into who they are and own that, is probably one of the most exciting things for me in life.
And one of the best examples of Joey helping someone become who they were meant to be was as the executive producer of the documentary we made about a young man named Noah who transformed his life in the youth prison system and impacted many more during and after his time there.
Adversity is our biggest asset. And once you understand that, you have taken your power back.
That was a story highlighting somebody who was starting to believe in themselves at a new level, was already taking the step to step into who they are and their unique gifting, calling, and potential. And you're seeing that play out in the way that Noah was impacting and transforming kids in the community, teaching poetry to kids to try to help them find this passion to keep them off the streets and out of gangs and out of prison. Any time over the years that I've rewatched the documentary, it is probably the project that I'm the most proud of in my entire life.
The documentary was really interesting because we made a decision not to go too direct about, we had Measure 11, there's some political stuff in there. And we made a decision to keep it more about Noah's story than about the social impact side of things. We wanted to be a little bit more indirect and do it through his story. And then we won an award at one of the film festivals for the best social impact documentary. And I thought that was really cool because it kind of validated the idea of storytelling to connect with people. Like, my dad, for instance, went into it with a very sort of judgmental view about the subject. And after watching the documentary, he changed his opinion after seeing what Noah did.
It can't not. I think that's my experience. I'm pretty sure it was Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, who walked around with a note in his pocket that said, once you know somebody's story, it's impossible not to love them. And that's been true for me. All the guys that we worked with at McLaren Youth Correctional Facility out in Oregon, every story sharpened my thinking and challenged my thinking, and sometimes completely changed my thinking. You still see this unique God-given potential, gifts, passion, interest that they squandered early on and made a lot of mistakes, and they still had potential and still had a desire to give back to society. Once you connect with people and you dive into the mess, I think we can't help but become better people as a result, more whole people as a result.
People who lead with their story and mission will be seen as leaders in their company, community, and industry. But to be an effective leader, you also have to understand the story of the people you work with and how to customize your leadership style to get the best out of everyone.
You know the Simon Sinek quote? I think he says success isn't about crossing the finish line. It's about how many people you can get to cross the finish line with you.
That's good.
I feel like that's because he also says there's leaders and there's those who lead. Anyone can take on that title. You can be a manager, you can be a boss, you can be a CEO. What would you say is the difference between an effective leader and an ineffective one?
I think situational leadership is something I'm a huge believer in. And so I think oftentimes what you'll find is people try to, again, kind of tying it back to the last conversation, is they try to pick a lane of, I'm going to lead this way, and everyone's either going to get on board with that or not. That tends to be effective for some and not for others. I think situational leadership is where you say, I'm going to strive to lead you in the way that you need to be led. I'm going to try to communicate to you in a way that is going to work for you. And so what I find is a lot of times people kind of err on one side or the other of either they're a high challenge leader or they're a high support leader. And a lot of times high challenge leaders without the support end up being domineering and burning people out. High support leaders without the challenge end up having people feel enabled, entitled, and they're protected, and they don't actually become the highest capabilities of what they're meant to become. So for me, I lean into what I told our team is I'm going to try to pull us to the top right challenge support matrix of the very furthest we can go. I'm going to try to challenge you in a way that you're not going to like. It's going to be uncomfortable consistently. And I'm going to try to make sure that I support you and keep that stirred belief in you and encourage you, words of affirmation, whatever it is that speaks to that person individually.
How has that worked for you so far in all of your experience? Because I'm sure you've seen some people respond to that and some people don't, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if people don't respond to it, because you can kind of make decisions that way. But yeah, what's been your experience about how people typically respond to that kind of challenge?
I've seen it as a whole. I think it's worked really well, and I feel a great piece about it. It took me a long time to get to a piece about being the guy who challenges and speaks into and holds more accountable than most people they've ever worked with before. That was hard for me to make peace with, but I think I've had enough affirmation and appreciation at this stage of my life to know that's my greatest gift to the world. It's my greatest gift to the people I lead, is to say, I care about you too much to let you be mediocre, the mediocre version of yourself. It's not only wasting it for you, it's wasting it for the people you can impact. And so if I can push and press in, and it's going to make it uncomfortable, and you might not like me for a week. You've probably had times you didn't like me for a day, from pressing in
a couple hours.
Hard enough, or yeah. Other people, it's probably a month sometimes, or longer. But at the end of the day, if I don't have the courage to press in, to take the risk to try to unlock in you what the world needs out of you, then for me, I'm not living into my calling. I don't want to be a courageless leader who isn't willing to take the risk, because it's misaligned values then, right? Then I'm prioritizing my value and my desire to be liked by you more than my value to bring the best out in you.
Leaders lead by example and set the standard for their team to follow. But not everyone will be up for the challenge. When you hold people to the standards of their potential rather than their comfort, you'll create a divide between those who are inspired by it and who are frustrated by it. But this is the price leaders have to pay to achieve extraordinary results. Still, this lonely road can take a toll on even those who seem to be the strongest leaders.
Winning has a price. And leadership has a price. So I pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled. I challenged people when they don't want to be challenged. I wanted to win, but I wanted them to win and be a part of that as well. I'm only doing it because it is who I am. That's how I played the game. If you don't want to play that way, don't play that way.
And so for me, that's the challenge. Is it's hard to feel like you're the bad guy all the time. And that is how it feels occasionally, but at the end of the day, again, you got to do what you're wired to do, and I feel wired to, I tell my teams we're playing to win the championship. We're not playing to make the playoffs. We're not playing to lose in the quarterfinals. We're playing to be the best we can possibly be, and sometimes that takes a long time to get there. John Wooden, 15 years till he won his first championship, and then 10 out of 12. I believe after that, but it's that constant focus on I'm going to do everything I can to get better, to get sharper, to be a better leader, to be able to be a more effective communicator. So that's the journey I'm on, and I just try to invite other people to be on that journey in their own way.
That's awesome. We talked the other day when we met at Starbucks that I said something like, everybody's trying to do their best, right? Everybody's trying their best.
Yeah, false.
I thought about that a little bit more. I think people are maybe trying to pass, they're trying to get by, and those who maybe are trying to look good in front of their team. There's others who are trying to actually do good for others. You kind of see that difference, like, especially with leadership, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, again, nuanced space, right? Like, I see the value of try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I think the downside is worse from that, because I think all anybody has to do to realize that that's not true is just look in the mirror and realize that on a day-to-day basis, I can do better. I can push myself harder. I think it's a detriment to ourselves and to the people we lead or work with or live with if we just sort of flippantly say, I think you're doing your best every day. Because you're not. Like, you have another level inside of you, and that you can tap into that, and that the world needs you to tap into that, and you need to tap into that.
Yeah. So you always know that's kind of comforting, because on one way you have to be a little more accountable and kind of realize that maybe I could have done a little more, but that's also an opportunity. It means things can get better for you.
Yeah, right? I'm encouraged by it. I think for me, it doesn't spiral me in a negative way. Like, I view it as that optimism, positive, hopeful, encouraging. Oh, I've got another level. That's great, because I'm not the leader I want to be. I'm not the husband I want to be. I'm not the dad I want to be. I'm always wanting to trend, like, be on the trend line to become more of that. But if you told me you're trying your best, therefore you can improve and get better, and as a result of that, you're stuck. Like, to me, then I feel stuck. And that's discouraging, and I think that actually leads to despair a bit more, versus, no, I've got a lot more in the tank and I can get better. I need to get better. The world needs me to get better. My kids need me to get better. I'm excited about it, and it matters. Impact matters. Who you become matters. Whether you get better or not matters. So I think it's all about standards, personally. Like, what do you want in life? And I'd say that's a differentiator maybe in me, is I want to crash into the finish line with nothing left in the tank. Like, I want to be proud of that I gave my best, and because I know I'm not right now, I want people to speak in and challenge and hold me accountable to bringing more to the table. And I want to celebrate that, yeah, and I am trying really hard, and I do good things and have had some positive impacts. But at the end of the day, I don't just want encouragement. I don't just want high support. I desire high support and high challenge. And I think at the end of the day, people genuinely desire both.
In the latest Gallup poll, research shows only 23% of employees strongly trust the leadership of their team or company. And when this is how they feel, they are 4 times less likely to be engaged and 58% more likely to be actively seeking another job. That's why it's so important for leaders and managers to be trusted and inspirational, so employees can find meaning in their work, feel like they're part of your culture, and perform at a higher level.
Can you talk about the peak performance cycle? That's a really well thought out, pretty scientifically accurate. You can compare it to almost anything. Can you talk about how you came up with that, and can you kind of go through what the peak performance cycle is?
Yeah, I've been studying high performers. I talked about, clearly I have high standards, big ambitions, want to accomplish a lot for the world. So I've studied the highest achievers in business and Olympics, athletics. And so just over the years and studying that, you're always looking for themes, right? You're always looking for patterns. And this pattern I saw led me to create what I call the peak performance cycle, which is that if you study those Olympians and billionaires and successful people, what you typically find is they have a crystal clear vision of what they want to accomplish. Olympic example, I want to win a gold medal and be the fastest person in the world. They then have a strategy that aligns with that vision. So how are you going to get there? I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to work out 6 days a week. I'm going to eat this many calories. I'm going to hold myself accountable to these things. I'm going to take ice baths. So they have this strategy. They bring a coach into it. They're developing and refining themselves. Then there's consistent action. Consistent action is now, I'm not just going to have the strategy on paper. A coach created a plan for me. I'm actually going to show up every day and do it consistently and do the hard work. And in the center of the peak performance cycle is belief. And belief is the fuel for action. If you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. So you could tell me, yeah, I want to be a gold medalist. And I could be the coach who puts a plan on paper for you. And then all of a sudden when it comes time to action, if you don't think it's possible for you to win a gold medal, but that's the vision and that's the goal, and that's what this whole strategy and plan is put in place to do, you're not going to wake up at 4 a.m. the next day, or you're not going to restrict your calories or push yourself and go in the 33-degree ice bath for it. You're not going to do any of that stuff because belief is the fuel for action.
I think the fact that you have such high standards for yourself and the high achiever that you are, you've been able to kind of leverage that into this really awesome position. You're the CEO of Vooks. How long have you been in that role there?
I've been at the company for just over 5 years now, and I've been CEO for 2.
That's really awesome, man. Tell me about Vooks. Like, what do you guys do there? I know you guys have a big mission with that too, but yeah, tell me about Vooks.
Yeah, I love it. It's been a huge blessing. Mission is to ignite a love of reading in kids around the world and to help them fall in love with learning and similar to everything I've talked about, and become the people they're capable of becoming, to become people of purpose. And so Vooks is a streaming service of animated storybooks for kids. We have over 40 publishing partners where we license their kids books that they have in the market. So, physical kids books that you read at night with your kids, and we take those books and then we bring them to life with animation, voiceover, music, and create a really fun, engaging educational product for kids.
And you guys are different because if you maybe compare it to a cartoon or maybe a lot of kids content that's out there, it's really fast paced and flashy and cuts, and the content is just meant to be entertaining, not necessarily educational. How are you guys different in the content that you put out?
Yeah, I'd say, a very biased belief, but I believe that we're the most entertaining educational app on the market, so that we really straddle both of those worlds well, and that the animation is deliberately slower paced, so better for brain development for those early readers and younger kids. The words animate on screen, so kids are getting exposed to new vocabulary and learning how to read and connecting what they're watching to an actual physical kids book. So if they have the kids book at home, we found that oftentimes that book becomes their favorite physical book to read over and over again. The books there's no ads, so they're safe, wholesome. You're trying to give people an alternative to other screen time, and unfortunately a lot of negative things get in now, and you see people trying to serve up terrible ads to kids and kind of hack into different systems. And so we try to create a safe, healthy alternative where parents can have guilt-free screen time. I read a stat once when I started at Vooks, which was that the average kid in America, by the time they turn 8 years old, have had the equivalent of 4.5 school years of screen time by the time they're 8. And when I read that, I remember thinking, that's not only a huge problem, but I actually think it's one of the biggest opportunities of our time, is if you can take that and make that educational and developmental screen time where they're falling in love with learning and igniting a passion for reading, because you learn to read so that you can then read to learn, and then you learn to become, and you become to contribute. And so the fact that we can play a role in that cycle for kids is something that I feel really fortunate to be part of.
It's awesome. It's obviously not just your opinion about how you feel the product is and the impact you feel it's making, because every time I check LinkedIn, I see you announcing some new partnership on there like all the time. So there's obviously other companies and organizations that are aligned with the impact that you're making. Can you tell me what some of those partnerships you guys have made?
Yeah, our team's done a great job the last 2 years of really expanding the product to more kids around the world. We went from 250,000 kids watching Vooks in 2021 to over 35 million kids in 2023 watched Vooks around the world. Some of that's through some key partners. We had a partnership with Netflix where they just revealed their data for the first half of last year, and we were the top 22% performing content on the #1 streaming platform in the world. We have our content on United Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Air India, Vietnamese Airlines, Singapore Airlines. So we've got content globally. We've got dozens of education and library partners and partners that license the content in a number of different systems as well. We're expanding on YouTube significantly, where we've got about 5,000 to 10,000 new subscribers every week on YouTube. And then the best side of the product is within our app, where you get access to the entire library and new features and a lot of exciting extra tools as well.
That's really cool. Can you talk about like your biggest new feature? You call it a feature, or is it a different product?
Yeah, no, it comes with a subscription. So we just launched Storyteller. It's a new version where essentially what you do is, instead of the professional voiceover that we hire to create a really engaging product for the kids now have an opportunity to record the voiceover themselves, or grandparents or parents or aunts and uncles. And so you can think of a grandparent in Florida who's trying to record a book for their kids out here in Oregon, and they can now record on Storyteller and pick their kid's favorite book or their grandkid's favorite book, and now they can listen to grandma reading them bedtime stories at night on Vooks. Or the kid can do it themselves. My wife and I, we have a 7-year-old son, Andrew, And he recorded a book on Storyteller recently. The title is called I'm Not Scared.
Like what? Like snakes. Ooh. Snakes? Yes, they are scary.
When we watched it, we were like, we can never lose this. His voice is at that fun stage where you don't want to lose it, and he was so into it and spent so much time like getting the voices just right and the tone and when to raise his voice and lower it. And so just seeing how engaged he was in that process and how much he enjoyed it, and then how proud he was when he got to share that with his grandma and his grandpa and his siblings and his friends and get to show them the product that he created. So yeah, we're really excited about this feature. We think it's going to be huge for families and a great way to connect families across miles when they're not together all the time.
That video that you guys made for it was so like touching and powerful. Can you tell me what the strategy was on that? Because that felt really powerful.
Yeah, we wanted to highlight the power and connection that we think this product can create. And so we highlighted it through grandparents to grandkids. We highlighted it through kids recording themselves and the fun and joy that you can see amongst the two kids that are doing that. And we highlighted it through a military dad who's overseas and not with his kids, and to show that impact of that, which hits home for me. I've got a father-in-law who was in the Marines for 27 years, a brother-in-law who has been on 4 tours and 15 plus years in the Marines, and a lot of sacrifice that you just know is there, and those times when they're away from their kids is hard. And so to create a product where it gives them the ability to feel that connection when they're not there is something that we were really excited to be part of. So the video is trying to highlight just the different ways this product can be used to impact families.
I mean, it's story again, right? You're showing real people, real emotions, real situations. There's kind of that challenge of communication sometimes, and your product is the solution. I think that's some of the best kind of marketing. We don't see that often anymore. It's usually just about features and benefits and why you should choose us. But no, I think what you guys made was very powerful there. That was really cool to see.
Thank you.
If we wrap everything up with the idea of, let me ask you this way, what do you want to be remembered for?
I would love to be remembered as somebody who people knew they could call at 2 a.m. if they needed me, and who saw in them things that they could never unsee. It's one of the things my mentor did for me, so to help them ignite their belief in themselves to another level, and somebody who challenged and pressed into helping them become their best version of themselves. And so if I can just do that in any sphere that I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to interact with, whether that's leadership, whether that's with my kids, with my wife, with my friends, that would, to me, be success. If I can show up daily that way, fully present and fully committed to believing in people so much that it helps unlock their full potential and challenge and inspire them to go after that.
I mean, I believe in you that much. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of people who say they want to change the world. You're the person I know who has the most, like, you're gonna do it. Like, I'm not thinking like you might do it or you have the potential. I have full conviction that people are gonna know your name someday and you're gonna make a radical impact in the world. So just being part of your journey and at any level has been a real honor. So I appreciate knowing you.
Thank you, brother. I feel the same way. And I would just say, how important it is. I've talked about it the other direction, but for me, I've had, you know this really well, but I've had a lot of dark, hard, on-edge moments. And it is because of a few key people who have spoken into and been there where I could be real and raw and authentic and vulnerable, who have helped keep me in the game. And not only just keep me in the game, but then help me actually go out and play to my potential and have the impact I can have. And I've talked about the importance of my mentor, Troy. I've talked to you about the importance of your friendship for over a decade now, and the encouragement and what you've unlocked in me. So for me, I try to do that for others because I've had so many people do it for me, and I know so tangibly the benefit of that. And I've been so close to the edge. I've had my human potential almost completely wasted enough times to say, to feel immense gratitude for the people like you who show up in my life that way, and to try to be that to other people.
It's awesome, man. It's been a pleasure. I believe in you, man. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the world.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
In today's complicated world, it's never been more important to have trusted leaders in our society. And the only way to become the best leader you can be is to become the best version of yourself you can be. And people like Joey are great examples of what can be accomplished when you believe and work towards your full potential, and believe in others so much that it unlocks their potential as well. I'm on a mission to help people become the leaders the world needs them to be, so together we can make positive changes in our companies, communities, and the world around us. If this is something you aspire to as well, then it starts by crafting a story around your mission and communicating it in a clear and compelling way. Because I believe everyone has a story worth telling, and when you have the courage to share it, amazing things can happen. If you or someone you know would like to be our next guest on this podcast, email me at the link in the description. And if you're ready to take your career to the next level and become the leader you were meant to be, send me an email to the same link with the title Leadership, and let's create a game plan to make your mission and vision become a reality.